In the heart of the UK in 2018, a vibrant young girl named Lucy McHugh stood at the crossroads of innocence and danger. Born on October 24, 2004, Lucy was a beacon of joy, a spirited 13-year-old whose laughter could light up a room. With dreams of becoming a lawyer and a heart full of ambition, her life seemed to hold endless possibilities. But beneath the surface of her seemingly perfect life lay a dark and twisted fate. Lucy was caught in a web of family turmoil. Her parents, Andy McHugh and Stacey White, had separated, leaving her and her brother Dylan to navigate the complexities of a fractured home. As her mother sought comfort in a new partner, Richard Elms, Lucy's world began to intertwine with that of a man whose intentions were far from benign. What started as a seemingly innocent relationship quickly spiraled into a nightmare, as Lucy found herself ensnared by the predatory Stephen Nicholson. At just 12 years old, her life would take a tragic turn, forever altering the course of her young existence. This is the heartbreaking story of a bright light extinguished too soon, a story that serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors. Lucy's family was a tapestry of love and conflict, woven with the threads of separation and struggle. Her parents, Andy McHugh and Stacey White, parted ways during her early childhood, leaving Lucy and her older brother, Dylan, to navigate the complexities of a fractured home. While Andy attempted to maintain a bond with Lucy, their relationship was often strained, marred by disputes that led to years of silence. In the midst of this turmoil, Stacey sought solace in a new partner, Richard Elms, a decision that would unknowingly entangle their lives in a web of darkness. Lucy was the embodiment of joy, a vibrant spirit bursting with laughter, generosity, and kindness. Her childhood was filled with moments of happiness, even as she grappled with the weight of her own expectations. An avid participant in sports, art, drama, and music, Lucy thrived on creativity and expression. Yet, it was her family trips to the beach that brought her the greatest joy. With ice cream in hand, she would dash through the Cornish waves and sprint across sandy shores, her adventurous nature leading her to uncover hidden coves and secret spots. Lucy's boundless enthusiasm found its outlet in the pages of her diaries, where she poured her thoughts and dreams. Little did she know, these cherished writings would soon become invaluable testimonies of her inner world. Lucy harbored big dreams. She aspired to become a lawyer, driven by a desire to provide legal services to those in need and to make a tangible difference in the world. She envisioned a life filled with purpose and fulfillment in the United States, where she could chase her ambitions unencumbered. However, as fate would have it, when she was just 12 years old, Lucy's life would take a tragic and irrevocable turn. Despite her remarkable wisdom and maturity for her age, she remained a child at heart, vulnerable and in desperate need of protection. This innocence would be shattered when she crossed paths with Stephen Nicholson, a man whose presence would lead her into the darkest chapter of her life. Stephen Nicholson was born in 1993, but the details of his early life remain shrouded in mystery. What is evident, however, is that his childhood was anything but ideal. By the age of 13, he found himself placed in a children's home, a stark indication that his parents either lacked the means or the willingness to care for him adequately. This tumultuous beginning set a troubling precedent for his teenage years, a critical time for growth and development. Instead of forging a path toward a bright future, Stephen spiraled into a world of darkness, becoming embroiled in serious criminal activities. By the age of 14, he was already experimenting with illegal substances, marking the onset of a tumultuous journey into chaos. In a chilling display of his burgeoning violence, Stephen once orchestrated a terrifying incident at the children's home. Armed with a bladed article, he rounded up the staff and child residents, herding them into a room while threatening them with the weapon. In a shocking escalation, he seized one of the female workers, pressing the knife to her throat and demanding she hand over PS 1000. With a ruthless determination, He then snatched the car keys from another staff member, attempting to make his escape. However, his brazen act of aggression was short-lived, as the police quickly caught up with him, leading to his prompt detention and a stark reminder of the darkness that enveloped his young life. As a consequence of his violent actions, Stephen received a 2-year sentence in a youth detention centre, where he faced charges including false imprisonment, affray, possession of a knife in a public place, theft and aggravated vehicle taking, among other driving offences. However, the detention centre, a place meant for rehabilitation, proved to be anything but that for him. Surrounded by peers who shared his reckless tendencies, the environment only served to amplify his violent behaviour. Instead of finding a path to redemption, Stephen's aggression escalated, setting the stage for further darkness in his future. One fateful day, Stephen and 2 other inmates took their rebellion to a new level by barricading themselves in the canteen. Armed with knives, their intentions were shrouded in chaos, but it was clear they sought to assert power through intimidation. As a prison guard bravely attempted to defuse the situation, Stephen lunged at him multiple times, desperately trying to stab the officer. Fortunately, the guard was equipped with a stab-proof vest, which saved his life from a potentially fatal encounter. This incident underscored Stephen's growing familiarity with violence and weapons, revealing a deep-seated moral depravity that would haunt him into adulthood. As Stephen transitioned into adulthood, his life remained unstable. He drifted from place to place, often sofa surfing before finally settling into a semi-permanent flat. During this tumultuous period, he developed a new skill: tattooing. Among his various tattoos, he etched the word freedom above his eyebrow, a choice that would soon bear ironic significance. In June 2012, at the age of 18, Stephen began communicating with an underage girl known only as a B, who was just 14 at the time. Eager to get inked, a B sought out Stephen to tattoo her and a friend, and in a troubling disregard for parental authority, Stephen agreed to do so without their parents' consent. At some point following these events, Stephen's reckless lifestyle led to him fathering a child, though the details surrounding this situation remain murky. Despite embracing fatherhood, he showed little intention of abandoning his criminal pursuits, continuing to sell illegal substances and reportedly raking in over PS500 a week. By May 2017, Stephen found himself in desperate need of stable accommodation. In a troubling turn of fate, he reached out to his childhood best friend, Richard Elms, who was also the stepfather of Lucy McHugh, for a place to stay. This decision would set into motion a series of events that would forever intertwine their lives in darkness. In the aftermath of these events, many have questioned what Richard Elms truly knew about Stephen's dark past. Was he aware of Stephen's time in a youth detention centre, his manipulative relationship with a B, or his ongoing involvement in drug dealing? Did Richard ever disclose any of this troubling history to his partner, Lucy's mother? One can only hope that Lucy's mother remained oblivious to the dangers lurking within her home. When Stephen moved in, he didn't come alone. He brought an unconventional menagerie of pets that sent shivers down the spines of those around him. Instead of the cuddly companions one might expect, Stephen introduced a 9-foot boa constrictor, several pythons, a gecko, a tarantula, and 2 chameleons into the household, a collection that seemed to reflect the chaotic and menacing energy he brought with him. Over time, a profound shift occurred in Lucy's state of mind. The vibrant, bubbly girl everyone once knew faded into a troubled shadow of herself. Anxiety consumed her, and her once joyful diary entries transformed into anguished reflections of her inner turmoil. Deep down, she sensed that something was terribly wrong. As Stephen grew increasingly confident in his manipulative control, he exploited Lucy's vulnerability without remorse. In her diary, she began documenting the harrowing reality of their encounters, revealing how the 25-year-old Stephen would choke her, leaving her gasping for breath. One particularly haunting entry, titled "Abuse," detailed how he coerced her into unwanted activities, ignoring her pleas to stop and leaving her feeling trapped in a nightmare from which she could not awaken. As the sinister rumors began to swirl around Lucy, her teachers grew increasingly concerned and ultimately called her mother, Stacey, into the school to confront her with the allegations. However, Stacey's response was one of disbelief and denial. She couldn't fathom that a man she had welcomed into their home could be violating her daughter right under her nose. In a desperate bid to protect Stephen, Lucy felt compelled to deny the troubling conversations she had shared with her friends. Rather than investigating further, Stacey perceived the school's concerns as unwarranted meddling in their family affairs. In a misguided attempt to shield both Stephen and her daughter from scrutiny, she opted to remove Lucy from the school, transferring her to another institution, thereby isolating Lucy from the support she desperately needed. Despite Lucy's denials regarding her relationship with Stephen, her teachers felt compelled to act, promptly referring their concerns to the multi-agency safeguarding hub. In response, Southampton City Council initiated an urgent and serious incident review after receiving alarming reports that Lucy was involved with a boyfriend more than a decade older than her. Yet, in a shocking turn of events, the inquiry was abruptly dropped when Stacey insisted that Lucy was not in danger. This dismissal raises a haunting question: how could such a grave allegation against a 25-year-old man be overlooked so easily? The system meant to protect vulnerable children had faltered, leaving Lucy even more isolated and at risk. The mounting turmoil further alienated Lucy from her family and friends, creating a rift within her household. As the facade of their relationship began to crumble, tensions between Lucy and Stephen escalated into volatile confrontations. Their once elusive bond devolved into shouting matches filled with venomous insults and profanity. Stephen unleashed a barrage of misogynistic remarks, wielding his words as weapons against a girl still grappling with her childhood. Disturbingly, he even confided in Stacey that he felt like punching Lucy, revealing a chilling glimpse into his escalating aggression and a blatant disregard for the emotional and physical safety of a vulnerable child. During this turbulent period, Lucy uncovered the alarming truth that Stephen was selling illegal drugs right from their home. Disturbed, she attempted to alert family members and neighbors about his illicit activities. However, instead of receiving support, her efforts were met with silencing tactics from her stepfather and mother. They warned her that these accusations could land Stephen in serious trouble, further compounding Lucy's feelings of isolation and helplessness. At the same time, Lucy was undergoing treatment for ADHD, attending regular therapy sessions. Yet, rather than recognizing her outbursts and accusations as valid expressions of distress, Stacey dismissed them as mere manifestations of bad behavior, ignoring the deeper issues that plagued Lucy's life. Before long, fear took hold of Lucy as she became increasingly terrified of Stephen. His threats escalated dangerously. He texted her, chillingly declaring his intent to hire a group of girls to beat her up after one particularly heated exchange. In a disheartening incident, Stephen and Lucy were embroiled in an argument when her stepfather, Richard, walked in and allegedly referred to her using a misogynistic term. If this account holds true, it paints a stark picture of Lucy's isolation, suggesting that she had no real support within her family household, leaving her vulnerable to Stephen's escalating manipulation and aggression. During this tumultuous time, Lucy transferred to a different school, but it didn't take long for more alarming allegations to surface there as well. Yet, in a troubling display of denial, Lucy's mother, Stacey, insisted that her daughter was merely living in a fantasy world, dismissing Lucy's fears as nothing more than a schoolgirl crush on Stephen. Despite the seriousness of the situation, social services intervened once again, but their involvement ultimately led to no further action. The investigations, though comprehensive, were swiftly dismissed when Stacey and Richard asserted that Lucy was in no danger, a response that further endangered Lucy and allowed the cycle of abuse to continue unchecked. The mounting investigations and accusations directed at Stacey ultimately led her to place blame on Lucy instead. In a devastating turn, she admonished her daughter to stay silent, insisting that Lucy would ruin Stephen's life if she persisted in speaking out. This toxic environment left Lucy feeling more isolated than ever. According to a close school friend, Lucy confided that her boyfriend was physically abusing her and that the situation was deteriorating rapidly. On the fateful Sunday before July 25, 2018, Lucy confronted Stephen during a heated argument, asserting that he was to blame for their tumultuous relationship and boldly claiming that she had a hold over him. This moment of defiance marked a turning point in Lucy's struggle against the oppressive control Stephen had over her life. Witnesses assumed that Lucy's confrontation was about Stephen's illegal drug dealing, but they misinterpreted the gravity of her words. In a moment of desperation, Lucy boldly declared to Stephen that she was pregnant and planned to reveal this to her mother. However, it was later confirmed that Lucy was not actually pregnant. Tired of the ongoing turmoil and conflict within their household, Lucy's mother and Richard finally demanded that Stephen leave. Complying with their wishes, he moved back in with his mother, yet he left behind all of his belongings and his menagerie of exotic pets, a reminder of his chaotic presence that would linger in Lucy's life. Later that night, Lucy summoned the courage to confide in Richard, expressing her desire to share something crucial with him and her mother. However, fate intervened. Stacey returned home after Lucy had already drifted off to sleep, and the critical opportunity for Lucy to voice her fears slipped away. She yearned to disclose that she was pregnant and that Stephen was the father, a revelation that had the power to expose the extent of his abuse. For Stephen, the stakes were dire. He recognized that if Lucy revealed the truth, it could shatter his world. In a chilling twist, he concluded that eliminating Lucy was the only way to safeguard himself from being unmasked as the predator he truly was. On Tuesday, July 24, 2018, Stephen feigned illness and called in sick to work at lunchtime, but this was merely a ruse. That afternoon he cycled to the flat of an elderly man he had befriended, who suffered from dementia. This location would serve as an ideal alibi and a secluded spot for Stephen to orchestrate his sinister plans. In a chilling display of premeditation, he ordered a pair of shoes for next-day delivery, ensuring that no footprints could be traced back to his known footwear. Additionally, he retrieved some old clothing that would not raise suspicions, further solidifying his deceitful facade as he prepared to execute his horrific intentions. However, Stephen still needed to lure Lucy into his clutches, and he skillfully convinced her to meet him. On July 25, 2018, around 9 a.m., Stephen made a calculated trip to a Tesco Express, ensuring that the store's CCTV would capture him in a specific outfit. Shortly after, Lucy appeared on camera, walking alone toward a sports centre, the designated meeting spot. With her phone confiscated by her mother, Lucy had taken her brother's watch to keep track of time. Court documents later described her as walking purposefully, unaware that she was unknowingly stepping into a meticulously laid trap, one that would seal her tragic fate. The final chilling footage captured Lucy as she walked past the same Tesco Express, her fate drawing nearer. The exact reason for her meeting with Stephen remains a mystery, but it was clear that urgency colored their encounter. Upon meeting, he led her through dense foliage and off the beaten path into a secluded woodland area. This time, Stephen was dressed in different clothing and was armed with a kitchen knife, his intentions darkening the atmosphere. In that secluded spot, he lunged at her with the knife, and although Lucy bravely fought back, she only managed to sustain defensive slashes and stabs to her arms and wrists. In a horrifying turn of events, Stephen quickly overpowered her, delivering 5 precisely aimed stab wounds to the side of Lucy's neck, a calculated attack that would prove fatal. One of the vicious stab wounds severed Lucy's carotid artery, a major blood vessel known for its high-pressure flow. Blood gushed forth, splattering both Stephen and the surrounding area, a gruesome testament to the brutality of the attack. The traumatic injuries led to an immediate loss of consciousness for Lucy, but Stephen's violent impulses showed no signs of abating. In a horrifying frenzy, he continued his assault, plunging the knife into her repeatedly. In total, 27 stab wounds were discovered on Lucy's body, with pathologists later concluding that many of these were inflicted post-mortem, an indication of the sheer savagery and depravity that defined Stephen's actions that day. After brutally murdering Lucy, Stephen returned to the flat of the elderly man with dementia, cycling home as if nothing had happened. However, he intentionally deviated from his usual route, seeking a secluded spot to destroy the blood-stained clothing he had worn during the attack. In a calculated move to erase any trace of his heinous crime, he set fire to the garments and disposed of them deep within the underbrush, attempting to conceal the evidence. This act of destruction was accompanied by the disposal of other items that would soon be identified as part of his murder kit, a chilling reminder of the premeditation that had gone into his horrific actions. When Lucy failed to return home later that day, Stacy's concern quickly turned to panic. Meanwhile, Stephen feigned sympathy, sending a text message to the family expressing his hope that they would find Lucy soon. However, the grim reality was that it wouldn't be long before Lucy's lifeless body was discovered. On the morning of Thursday, July 26th, at 7:45 a.m., authorities found Lucy's body, and news of her tragic murder spread like wildfire through the community. In a grotesque display of manipulation, Stephen continued to play the concerned friend, acting horrified and empathetic towards Stacy and Richard, all while concealing the truth of his monstrous actions. An investigation was quickly launched, and it became apparent to the police early on that Lucy's murderer was someone she knew, a person close to her, likely male. Lucy was not the type to venture into the woods without purpose, and the blood spatter and pooling clearly indicated that she had been murdered at the scene, rather than being killed elsewhere and dumped. Almost immediately, the investigation focused on Stephen, particularly after detectives gained access to Lucy's diaries and began poring over her intimate thoughts. The writings provided crucial insights into her troubled relationship with him, raising alarm bells about his involvement in her tragic fate. The evidence strongly indicated that Lucy and Stephen were engaged in an illegal relationship characterized by his extreme abuse. Just days after Lucy's tragic death, Stephen was arrested. When police requested access to his phone, he feigned innocence, claiming it had broken. However, unbeknownst to him, law enforcement had the capability to track his phone's location and usage. They promptly contacted his service provider, who provided crucial data. Typically, Stephen would respond to texts and calls within 7 minutes, but during the 3-hour window following Lucy's last sighting, he fell silent, refusing to answer any communications. This absence raised further suspicions about his involvement in her murder. During the police interview, Stephen insisted that on the day of Lucy's death, he had cycled to and from the flat of the elderly man with dementia. However, the police reviewed CCTV footage and detected a significant discrepancy in his timeline. In the footage, Stephen was seen carrying a plastic bag, but moments later, he appeared again, this time with the bag noticeably lighter, suggesting he had disposed of something inside. With only circumstantial evidence to work with, the police faced a pressing dilemma. They were nearing the 96-hour limit for holding him, risking his release, and the potential destruction of critical evidence that could solidify their case against him. The investigation took a significant turn when police discovered Lucy's iPad, uncovering a series of Facebook messages exchanged between her and Stephen. In one alarming exchange, Lucy confided in Stephen about her supposed pregnancy, to which he callously dismissed her concerns, claiming she was talking nonsense. Unfortunately, many of these crucial messages had been deleted, leaving investigators struggling to piece together the full context of their conversations. Until this point, Stephen had shown surprising compliance with the police, But that willingness evaporated when they requested access to his Facebook account. His refusal to provide his password sent alarm bells ringing for detectives, raising suspicions about what he was hiding. The police were eager to examine the other side of the messages and uncover the content that had been deleted by Lucy. However, Stephen stubbornly denied them access, a refusal that immediately raised alarm bells for the detectives. In a twist of fate, his defiance inadvertently aided the investigation. Under Section 49 of the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000, if an individual is suspected of acts of terror or child endangerment and refuses to provide access to social media, that refusal can itself be deemed a criminal offence. As a result, Stephen was charged with this offence and ultimately sentenced to 14 months in jail after pleading guilty. This conviction proved crucial, alleviating some of the pressure on investigators and granting them more time to delve deeper into the circumstances surrounding Lucy's tragic death. Armed with more time following Stephen's conviction, the police turned their attention to meticulously analysing his phone data. However, the information was imprecise, leaving investigators with only a broad area to search. The scale of the search was daunting. It would require an astonishing 2,240 police personnel shifts to cover the designated region. This monumental task translated to 14 officers working 2 shifts a day for 80 days. Undeterred, the police launched an extensive search of the area, determined to uncover any evidence that could link Stephen to Lucy's murder. 9 weeks after her tragic death, they initiated the largest fingertip search in UK history, a testament to their commitment to seeking justice for Lucy. The exhaustive search covered over 30,000 square meters, and the breakthrough finally came when investigators discovered a bag hidden among the underbrush. Inside, they found a blood-stained hoodie and blue latex gloves, both marked with Lucy's blood on the outside. The forensic evidence was irrefutable. Stephen's DNA was identified on the items and within the gloves, linking him directly to the crime. With this compelling evidence in hand, authorities swiftly removed Stephen from prison to confront him with their findings. As he faced the overwhelming proof of his guilt, his jaw dropped in disbelief when he was officially charged with the murder of Lucy McHugh. Earlier in this narrative, the story of a young girl named B was introduced, a victim of Stephen's manipulation and abuse. In a courageous move, B stepped forward to share her harrowing experience, providing vital testimony that would help bring Stephen to justice. As the trial commenced, the prosecution uncovered multiple aggravating factors, the most significant being Lucy's vulnerable age. They meticulously highlighted the chilling premeditation behind Stephen's actions, painting a portrait of a calculated predator. The prosecution detailed the brutality of the attack and Stephen's deliberate attempts to mislead law enforcement, showcasing a disturbing pattern of behavior that underscored the severity of his crimes. Stephen was ultimately found guilty of Lucy's murder as well as the assault on B. During the sentencing, the judge delivered a powerful statement that resonated deeply in the courtroom on July 5, 2018. "You murdered Lucy McHugh, exploiting her in an utterly selfish and depraved manner. She was just 13 years old. Your selfishness and savagery have irrevocably blighted her family's lives." The sentence imposed was life imprisonment, with a minimum term of 33 years. After that period, a parole board would determine whether Stephen could ever be released, a chilling reminder of the lasting impact of his heinous actions. In the aftermath of the sentencing, Stephen displayed a chilling lack of remorse for his actions, showing no acknowledgement of the suffering he had inflicted on Lucy's family throughout the trial and continuing to this day. Lucy's family remains tormented by deep regret and overwhelming pain, struggling to find solace in the wake of such a devastating loss. Additionally, Lucy's stepfather Richard has faced public backlash, branded by some as complicit in the crimes, leading to several attacks against him. The tragic case of Lucy McHugh stands as a harrowing reminder of the vulnerabilities children face and serves as a stark warning that such horrors should never occur. For Southampton, July 25, 2018, will eternally be marked as a dark day in the community's history. The shocking loss of Lucy, a bright young girl with a promising future, left the town reeling in grief. In the aftermath of this tragedy, vital conversations emerged about child safety and the necessity of vigilance in identifying the signs of abuse. Lucy's story ignited a powerful wave of advocacy, prompting many to call for stronger protections for vulnerable children and more effective measures to prevent such horrific events from recurring. Her legacy became a catalyst for change, inspiring a collective commitment to ensure that no child would suffer the same fate. The case of Lucy McHugh stands as a heartbreaking testament to the vulnerabilities that children face, while also exposing the critical failures within the systems designed to protect them. The shortcomings of family members, educational institutions, and social services collectively contributed to a tragic outcome that might have been prevented. Lucy's story emphasizes the urgent need for a comprehensive approach to child safeguarding, one that fosters collaboration among families, schools, and law enforcement agencies. This integrated effort is essential to creating a safer environment for all children, ensuring that their voices are heard and their needs are met. In the years following Lucy's tragic death, her family has passionately advocated for meaningful change. They have dedicated themselves to raising awareness about the signs of grooming and the critical importance of listening to children when they express their concerns. Through their tireless efforts, they aim to spare other families from the heart-wrenching pain they have endured. Their advocacy has ignited community initiatives focused on educating both parents and children about the dangers of predatory behavior, empowering them to recognize and report suspicious activities. By transforming their grief into action, Lucy's family is determined to create a safer future for all children. Lucy's story has resonated across various media outlets, amplifying the critical conversation surrounding child safety and the harrowing consequences of abuse. Documentaries, articles, and public discussions have not only preserved her memory, but have also served as vital educational tools, illuminating the often overlooked signs of danger. These dialogues have ignited calls for policy reforms designed to strengthen child protection laws and enhance the responsiveness of social services in the face of abuse allegations. By keeping Lucy's story at the forefront, advocates aim to foster a more vigilant society, committed to safeguarding children from similar fates. The legacy of Lucy McHugh embodies both tragedy and hope. Though her life was tragically cut short, her story has emerged as a powerful catalyst for change, inspiring individuals and communities to take meaningful action in safeguarding children. The relentless efforts of her family and advocates serve as a testament to the lasting impact of her life and underscore the urgent necessity for a collective response to protect vulnerable children everywhere. Lucy's story continues to resonate, reminding society of its responsibility to foster safe environments where every child can thrive. As we reflect on the heartbreaking case of Lucy McHugh, we are reminded of the vital importance of vigilance, open communication, and proactive measures in the ongoing fight against child abuse. Every child deserves to be heard, protected, and nurtured, and it is our collective responsibility to ensure that such a tragedy never occurs again. Lucy's story serves as a powerful call to action for everyone to rise up against abuse and advocate for the safety and well-being of all children. Together we can forge a safer future for the next generation, standing united to prevent further heartache and loss.